So, this month is Do It Now month. And I want to explain something about this concept. Do it now. Well, you may ask yourself, before I can do it now, I have to know what's mine to do. How many of you have ever just run into something without ever questioning and you're doing, but you're not really thinking? Anybody do that? No. Good, so that's all of you. So, what we see here today is the do it now consciousness of all the volunteers around here. I mean, last night when the show was over, we snowed last night, so there was snow all over the stage, and Don Zenz had brought in so much equipment and all these chairs that were set up and the huge TV that takes a lot to get down here, all the stuff. And the show was over, and everybody didn't just go home. Most of them stayed and cleaned and did everything. So after getting up there and bleeding their hearts out, they stayed and put everything together, everything away. Oh, thank you, sweetie. See that? That's how it works. They just take care of me. And it does. That's true. I wouldn't have shirts to wear if he didn't take them to the cleaners, because I never remember. No, and I'll never get the last word, right?
Never.
There you go. So the do it now consciousness really does take us to spend some time before we do in the contemplation of what's mine to do. And I can't tell you how important this question has been for me in the past few months. What's mine to do? Look at Reverend Doug and Reverend Sharon. They're very clear. This is not theirs to do anymore. What's theirs to do is something bigger, something more expansive for them, something after 10 years of being here. When they asked themselves the question, what's mine to do, this wasn't the answer. The answer was something else. And I don't even know that they know what that is yet, but I know that it knows what they are, and it takes them on that journey. So, Doug wasn't the only one asking himself what's mine to do after 10 years here. I've been asking that question too. What's mine to do here at this center with all of you online, with the message that I want to get out into the world, which is a very simple message. I am God, and nothing else will be accepted anymore. I am God. And that's what I want to take out there. And so how that happens, I don't know. I know that I will always be here, standing here, or at least a vision, an image of me. I've thought about that. I thought, well, what if I'm somewhere else speaking, but I'm at the time zone differences, they just wheel out the television, and there I am. Yeah, that worked well over you. Okay, good. You're all like, yeah, that doesn't work. Don't do that. So what's mine to do is really an important question for all of us today. And I'll ask you all to ask yourselves, what's yours to do? So I was looking for quotes. I wanted to find out, what do other people think about this idea of doing, about what's mine to do in the world? How many of you think right now that you know what's yours to do in this world? Raise your hand. And you're doing it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's possible that there's even more for you to do? Yes. Or something else?
Absolutely.
Right? I met someone at Karen Needle's Christmas birthday party last night, and she was telling me that she used to be a model, and she did some Broadway shows, and she said, and now I'm a professor at a college, and she said, and it's so funny. At one point, one of my students said, "We can go from Broadway to professor. Hello." So she said, one of my students said, "You should think about acting," and she went, "I have done that." And she said, "And everything I did brought me to this moment." And I said, "Oh my God!" Just like that. I said, "Oh my God! I feel the same way. Everything I did, all singing, dancing, acting, modeling, all of it, everything I did brought me to this moment in time. And I want to use it all." I mean, those of you who were here last night, I put those tap shoes on and I just tap. Yeah, right? And I walked a tightrope across this stage. I mean, whatever it is, I do it. I do it. And I'm doing it all. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that I'm done learning. I want to do more things. Not snorkeling, but a lot of things. So I have some quotes for you. No, I'm going to try that again at some point in shallow water. That's all. So Albert Einstein said this: insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So when it comes to doing, one of the things I want to ask you is, are you doing the same thing over and over again expecting your life to change? When you say what's mine to do, are you just doing what you thought was yours to do, or maybe even what was yours to do a year ago, or a month ago, or 10 years ago, or God forbid 30 years ago? That you're still doing it. Because Einstein will tell you you're insane. Because you're still doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it may not be fulfilling you. And if you find yourself in a position of feeling unfulfilled somehow in life, that's the first thing to check. What am I doing? What am I doing that is making me unfulfilled? Because that is not your innate default setting. Your default setting is passion and excitement. That's your default setting. So if you're not passionate and excited, you got to ask yourself, what's mine to do? Because clearly I'm not doing it. Or perhaps I don't even know what it is. So what's mine to do totally taps into a deeper understanding of this thing called doing. You know, breaking bad habits of what's not mine to do anymore. Walt Disney said, we keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. So the next question I have for you this morning is your life filled with curiosity? Are you curious about life? Are you curious about the new things in life? I know that there was a moment recently when something was going on with learning for me on my computer. How many of you just look at what's going on in the computerized world and all the new gadgets and gizmos and things that's gone, the iPhone and the app and this and that, and there's a choice in that moment, like Karen said. There's an absolute choice in that moment. A choice can be, that's it, my iPhone's gone, I will not do any of it. And there were moments when I was just like, oh my God, what a great idea. I'm going to move to Italy. Because that's where the slow movement is. There's a thing called the slow movement in this little town in Italy, and they just do everything slowly. And I keep trying to get Kevin to take me there on a vacation, and he said, that's like stabbing me in the eye with a pitchfork. I said, but they go to dinner at 6 o'clock and they don't finish till midnight. They do, and if you ask for a check, they're like, no, we're not done. Right? So I do still want to go there and check that out, but I'll have my iPhone with me. So you had a choice moment. And for me, it was the choice of, all right, this may be challenging, but I'm going to learn everything I can learn and just keep learning. Just keep learning. Because I am curious. And here's the thing about curiosity. I think people aren't curious when they don't think they're up to the task of being curious. When they somehow don't know who they are, and they therefore think whatever they're going to be curious about, they're not going to be equal to. And that's just not the truth, is it? It is just not the truth. So, is your life filled with curiosity? What's mine to do? That question, what's mine to do, literally provokes curiosity in you. It does. Just asking yourself the question, what's mine to do, is a curiosity question. And it lets that thing in you start to percolate. But you have to be willing, once you say what's mine to do, you have to be willing to actually listen to the answer. Because guess what? The answer is going to come as soon as you ask the question. Unless you're trying to tell it what's yours to do. How many of you do that? What's mine to do? Because here's what I'd like to do. What's mine to do? But none of that. No, you got to just say what's mine to do and then listen for the answer. George Bernard Shaw said this: a life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. So I want to ask you a question. I have questions after every one of these quotes. Does the fear of making a mistake keep you from doing things? I know it does for some people. I watch it. As a director, I see it all the time. When actors they stay safe. They stay in this place of not really jumping in because they're afraid they're going to make a mistake. And there is nothing more boring than an actor who is unwilling to make mistakes. Because that actor is literally not even in their body. They are watching themselves saying, I'll sing it, I'll do it like this, maybe no one will notice I don't know it. Right? So now that's just the actor's plight. Well, how do you do it? Are you afraid to make mistakes? Because I got to tell you, the fear of making mistakes is one of the biggest hindrances to the doing. If you're afraid of making mistakes, then what does that mean? And I have another great quote, which I apparently didn't put right here. So I'll find. Albert Einstein said, "If we knew what we were doing, it would not. If we knew what it was we were doing, it wouldn't be called research, would it?" Think about that. If we already knew everything, it wouldn't be called research. We have to not be afraid of making mistakes. And yet fear is definitely a motivator, isn't it? But I got to tell you what I've decided. I don't believe fear is a motivator in a positive way. I don't. Because a lot of people will say, well, when I'm afraid, it really motivates me. No, it doesn't. Fear doesn't motivate you. Fear is what comes after something in you has motivated you. And then jumping through it, it's not about the fear that you jump through, it's about just stepping into the truth of who you are, and the fear goes away. I remember the first time I had to walk across that tightrope in front of a full audience, and I hadn't walked across it yet without falling. And the director kept saying to me, when there's an audience there, you will not fall. And I kept saying, I don't see that as an option. And it's so funny, my son, I'll use him even though he'll talk to me about this later, but I'm going to do it anyway. He was singing in We Need a Little Christmas, and he couldn't hit the high note. When he goes, I've grown a little older, and this high note. And he never did it. So I just started accepting the alternate note he added, which wasn't even in the chord. But I just allowed him to sing that note. And then last night, with a full audience, he sang that so loud and full, all the right notes, I almost hiccuped. I was like, whoa, that was actually the line. And I mentioned it to him this morning, and Kevin and I were kidding him, and he said, well, Dad, when the audience shows up, you got to do it. Just the kind of actor you want as a director. Yes. I'll trust that you'll do it when the audience shows up. But can I tell you something? When the audience showed up, I walked across the tightrope, and I didn't fall. And that was such a huge lesson to me. I was like, why did it take that for me? And I have to tell you what it is. It was the idea of if I stay in that safe zone, people don't expect as much. And so I fall off every now and then, right? And the little girl in the play just zoomed across it each time, which I think also pissed me off. But the point I'm trying to make here is that fear of making a mistake is crippling. The fear of making mistakes is crippling. If you make enough mistakes, you actually learn what's right. And the mistakes were part of it. And that's a big part of this. Sometimes we find that what's mine to do can't be done by anyone else. Have you ever had that happen? Oh, yeah. And obviously, thank you. Oh, yeah. Right? Some of my most treasured experiences are when I answered a call to do something for someone else. And I want to bring that up. What's mine to do for the world? What's mine to do for you? What's mine to do? Sometimes if we just take the emphasis and the focus away from ourselves, we find that we do such amazing things because we're actually not in it as myself. I'm actually in it as the one. Because I am you, Laurie Savage, and you are me, right? So if I'm there to do something for you, Barbara and Gary Altman, then I'm kind of out of myself and yet into myself. So another question is, what's mine to do for the universe? What's mine to do in this world for the universe? I want to point someone out, and that's Don Zenz. Because Don Zenz does so much around here that none of you know. He spends hours up in the control room fixing and changing and cleaning and just making this center more of what it can be. And this is what I really want to bring up. I thanked him last night. I get very emotional. I thanked him last night, and I said thank you for everything you do. And rather than you're welcome, he looked at me and said, and I honestly believe him when he said this, he said, it's my pleasure. No, but, and you remember saying that, right, Don? It's my pleasure. And here's the thing. It wasn't a perfunctory, oh, it's my pleasure. It was, he really meant it. That's the authentic living I'm talking about. When we're willing to say, what's mine to do? And not just doing things because we feel we have to, or we have a responsibility to do it. It's funny, Josh, who's up in the booth right now, running the controls for our service, He said to me while we were painting chairs at 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday night, early Saturday morning, Josh said to me, he said, you know, you have a real gift for getting people to help you. I think he said it that way, something like that. You have a real talent for getting people to enlist. That's what he said, for getting people to enlist. And I just kept painting, and then I said, you know what? That's not the talent I have. I said, the talent I have, and the talent that I certainly want to continue to grow, is the talent to give people the opportunity to find passion in their life and be a part of something. I said, that's what I want. And what I never want is the people who do things because they feel they have to, because that's never a good outcome. And that's why when people start to burn out, if I notice it, I'm the first to say, it's time. Let's bring in someone who has more passion now. You have to find passion about something else. And that's really what today is all about for me. What are you passionate about, and are you doing it? Mother Teresa said, we ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. Now just think about that. There's Mother Teresa teaching us that I am God. A devout Catholic, knowing that I may be a drop in the ocean, but if that drop were missing, somehow the ocean would be less. Now the truth is the ocean can never be less. But the truth also is, if you don't know you are the ocean, you are somehow not experiencing the allness. You're experiencing the drop. So, can you feel in you the power of the ocean when you do things? Can you feel what's back of you? Can you really honestly feel everything that you are? Not just the little things you do, but can you walk this earth feeling the power of the ocean as you do it all? In case you don't know, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Just a little bit. When you run a center, you have to get over that and just be grateful for everything as it happens. And when I woke up yesterday, I, after being up till 3 a.m. painting chairs and redoing my script and printing out things so that the lighting and sound could follow it, I woke up, I was still tired, and I said, today, James, you have to be grateful for everything. You have to be grateful even when things don't go well. You have to be grateful when there are mistakes. You just have to be grateful for everything. And a voice inside of me said, but then how's it going to go well? Just follow my mind. And I was like, well, because you have two choices here. Do you want to go in and make sure that this runs like a perfect show, or do you want to make sure that everyone has a perfect experience of it? And that's the difference. Do you want to be perfect at what you do, or do you want to have a perfect experience of life? And a perfect experience of life includes the mistakes. It includes everything that goes on. Everything that goes on in your life. Not just what you call perfect. Francis of Assisi said, start by doing what's necessary. Then do what's possible. And suddenly, you will find yourself doing the impossible. We, all of us, need to raise the bar on what we think is possible. So that's my next question to you. How high is your possibility bar? How high do you go when it comes to what you think you can do, what you know you can do? How high are your aspirations? I have always said that we all create the box that we live in, and that we all put the ceilings on our lives, saying, I can only go this far, I can only go this far. I love that Jo Jordan, when I walked in today, she said, just so you know, I got an IHOP national commercial. Jo Jordan. And I can't tell you how many conversations we've had about living on a fixed income where both of us are like, who's fixing these incomes? Who's fixing them? And you know what the answer is? We are fixing them. We fix every bar that we set. We fix it. So our job today is to actually ask ourselves, what's mine to do? And even there, raise the bar. It's not what's mine to do considering that I'm a 59-year-old man living in this body and I do this and I have these talents. That's not it. That ain't it, kid. That ain't it. No one? Okay. Fix the what? Fix the chassis. Thank you. Cassie. So, how high is your bar? And here's a bigger question, I guess. What is it going to take for you to raise it? What is it going to take for you to raise it? Because I have your answer for that. The only way you're going to be able to raise the bar is if you raise your identity level. Because you won't raise the bar unless you know who you are. Oh my God, there's a bumper slogan. You won't raise the bar unless you know who you are. Dun, 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 dun. So, you can't raise the bar and still think you're limited. Because you won't reach the bar then, will you? I think about my ballet training, and I think about, on one of the first days of rehearsal at West Side Story, and Jerome Robbins asked all the Jets to go across the stage and do these huge, whatever, Bob, what are they called? Tours or something? Yeah, big dance steps. And I remember getting into the back of the line. I was playing the lead of all of these dancers. I was Riff. And I remember getting in the back of the line and going, and now they're going to find out I am not the dancer the rest of them are. Because they were all these big ballet dancers, and I was an actor, singer, Broadway hoofer. And even though I had some ballet training, and you don't really care. So they all start dancing, and they're like flying across the stage, and I can feel it in my body right now. I remember standing there going, oh my God, it's horrifying. This is like horrifying. I'm like, just go. And I'm like, I flew across the stage, probably as well as they all did. And I remember getting to the other side and being like, what was that? I was like, maybe I can do this. And then I remember during the run of the show, running into Bob Fosse at a party for dancing, and he had seen West Side Story. He said, you're really one of the best dancers on Broadway. I was like, wait, no, I got to tell you how he finished that. He said, it's a sin that you can't do my style. But I couldn't. I could just never do that really fast thing across. Every time I tried to do one of those, I was like, which is it? Is it forward? Is it back? What? So I can do it now. But so what we're talking about here is the bar and what you think you can do and what you don't think you can do. So here's your opportunity today to say, how high is my bar? What do I put in the way? And this is my next thing, which is distractions. What distracts you from what's yours to do? And I know we all have a list of the distractions. Oh, I would love to do that, but I have to do this. Oh, I would do that, but I have to learn this first. How many times have you said that? I would love to do that, but I'll have to go to school and learn that. What are your distractions? What distracts you from doing what is yours to do? Who distracts you from doing what is yours to do? How often do you let what people say distract you from what is yours to do? Or talk you out of it even, when you know it's yours to do? George Bernard Shaw said this: people who say it cannot be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. And yet I can tell you, the people whose bar is very low are the first ones to tell you it can't be done. And that's not their fault. It's their reality. When they're saying to you that's not possible, it's because that's what they believe. The question is, what are you in alignment with? I got to tell you, for me, all someone has to tell me is that it's not possible, and that's my go do it. And I've always been like that. If I hear that's not possible, I just don't buy it. There is nothing that is not possible. Everything is possible. Yes? Yes. Let's all say that. Everything is possible. Now add for me to that. Everything is possible for me. William Shakespeare said, talking isn't doing. Talking isn't doing. How often do you spend so much time talking about what you're going to do? Or talking about even what you're doing? I think very often we talk about it because then we don't have to do it. I've already lived it, right? Talking isn't doing. Mahatma Gandhi said, the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. What you are doing and what you are capable of doing sometimes are two very different things. So, what are you capable of doing? When you ask yourself that, what am I capable of doing? Then ask yourself, am I doing it? It's not enough to say, am I capable of this? Am I capable of this? Am I doing it? I am capable of so much more than I'm doing right now. And I am willing to hear what that is and then do it. Which does not mean I'm going to occupy even more of my time. Because what it really generally means is Get rid of the distractions, the things that you don't need to be doing, and do what is yours to do. So, Ernest Holmes wrote this: what we know, we can do. What we cannot do, we only suppose. We only think we know. So my final question to you is, what do you know? Absolutely know. Doing is intrinsically linked to knowing. You won't do what you don't know. So what do you know? Imagine what you'll do when you know that you are God. If I really know I am God, my doing just suddenly exploded in expansiveness. When I know I am God, and Ernest Holmes really gets it very clear here. Doing relates to what you know. So, I leave you with the question, and I'd love you to use it all week. What's mine to do? And listen, because here's what I do know. There's something in you that knows who you are, whether you are going to know it or not. There is the truth that you are, the authentic self, that just knows who you are. And you see glimpses of it, and I see glimpses of it, and there are moments, there are days even when I can live in it. And that is an amazing feeling. Now, if you just ask yourself what's mine to do and get your, as Emerson says, your bloated nothingness out of the way, and ask yourself what's mine to do, and listen and hear, you'll hear what that is. And then your next job is to know that whatever came forth, you are equal to. No matter what. No matter what. So I'd like to take a moment, just take a deep breath. I'm just going to ask the question, and you can ask it in your own mind. What's mine to do? Wow. I wish you could all be standing right here, right now. Because I'm feeling an enormous sense of energy. As if the ocean is just pouring up through us saying, just add your drop here. Because this is who you really are. Namaste.